Yo, welcome to CypherBeastT.V. All right, today, all the way from the UK, we got Chaz B. What's up, bro? How you doing?
What's happening, man? Very happy to be here. Really looking forward to our conversation.
Nice, dope. So I'm your host, Tony47, and we're gonna talk about a little bit about content creating, kind of your background, your story, Chaz. So tell me a little bit about you. So how did you get exposed to breaking?
How did I get exposed? That's a good question. So I've been involved in breaking since maybe like 16 years ago, something like that, in Scotland, where
Okay.
I'm originally from. I started taking some classes and then just got really into the self expression element of it all. And then I started entering one on one battles, I think like a year or so after that. And at the same time, I had a little camera on me and I just wanted other people to film my rounds. And
Okay.
I was having my rounds filmed and I thought, well, I was always knocked out in the first round because I wasn't very good. But I wanted to film other people's rounds so that I could learn from them. But I would also use that as a way to network, as a way to get to know people and be like, hey, I saw you at the jam and I filmed your round. So here it is. And then
Oh, nice.
over time, I did that a little bit more. And then I got an intro to Daniel Zhu from Stance.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
basically, the crew hadn't been formed at that time, but I got to know him. And so my interest into filming sort of developed a little bit more then. And then I got to filming with him and a couple of other people from around 2010, 2011. And then I was also competing as well. I only really recently stepped back from that actually. And it was in 2014 that we all decided, well, let's actually set up our own thing. So we did. And that's basically the last 10 or so years of our lives that has just been dedicated to elevating our culture in the best way that we can.
Dope. Wow. There's a lot of that was a timeline from beginning to ongoing to the future and end, right? So I definitely want to get into more of the storytelling, more of like you got into breaking. Did you see any like from the roots? How did you see people breaking at the time, or are you saying you went to an event and then that's how you kind of like grasp like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah,
Okay, I want to start.
my only exposure to events was me actually taking part in them. So before that, I hadn't really seen a lot of it, to be honest.
Okay.
When I started to go to classes, that's when I started actually finding out about, the old battles, the 1984 Rock's Steady New York City Breakers, all that whole, learn, like I didn't know too much about hip hop as a culture at that time. I was only breaking.
Okay.
And I think for a
Right.
lot
Right.
of people, it's the same thing. A lot of people learn the moves and then learn about the movement after. It seems to be kind of chastised nowadays because our culture is more in the main. It's seen as in a more commercial way, and I think we just all have to recognize that we all got into breaking in a similar way, where you learn the moves and then learn everything else after. So I only got to know about events and battles and things once I started dancing.
Nice, dope. I would very similar story. I saw some breakers at my high school at the time, doing windmills, but I was kind of into dance beforehand. I was like learning hip hop choreography type of dance, but then I saw some school students doing some windmills and a few other breaking. I was like, oh, okay, I want to learn some of that stuff, and then just kind of gravitated the whole until now. And that was, back in 2016 when I first started. And I'm 18. Well, that was 18 at the time. I'm 37 now, and so a lot of off and on going, and which is tight, which is dope. Definitely want to get more into, the UK. How's that scene going right now? I don't know too much about it. Could you talk about how's it going over there? How's the community?
Yeah, sure. Well, the UK scene is in a very healthy place right now because there's a younger generation that are really making a name for themselves. So back when I was coming up, you had guys like the Mouse. he was basically the guy that basically was flying the flag for everybody. He was at BC1 in 2006. Him and Soul Mavericks at the time. I think Soul Mavericks were around in like 2005, I think was their first year out, and they were at R16. They would go to Battle of the Year. You had crews like La Familia and Get Low Pirates. You had Foundations. And then if you go up north into Scotland, you had the Flying Jalapenos, Heavy Smokers, and all those guys as well. It's in a healthy place right now because there's a lot of younger cats that are really coming up and making a name for themselves. You've got Sunny and also Karam and Sheku right now, who are basically, I would say, are the top guys right now because they're making a name for themselves. Every time they're at an event, they're always in the top 16, the top 8 at these world level events. I believe they were in the OQS actually, all three of them. And
Oh, okay.
I believe they made it to the top 32 of them.
Oh,
And I
really?
think in the league table, they were, I think, around the top 16. So they narrowly missed out on getting to the Olympics. So as far as the UK level, I would say that we're pretty much on par with most of the world right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if there will be world champions coming out. I mean, Sonny's already a world champion. He won IBE in 2015, right?
Uh-huh.
So basically, we already have world champions, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a whole bunch more. I mean, also Karam is a world champion as well because he won World B-Boy Classic with Nord Diamond, and he's won other world level events as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a whole lot more coming out in the next, say, 5 or so years.
Dang, that's dope, dude. Your knowledge and experience it's awesome. It's amazing. Definitely learning and talking to you right now. It's a lot of I'm learning out to this base, right? And so I'm just a local cat from Portland, Oregon. Been to Seattle, Vancouver, BC, but nothing really explored until like this year. I went to the last November was actually my first time going to a freestyle session. I didn't have any like crewmates or be like, oh, let's go to this gym and travel and this and this. I had a slight vision of stuff like that, but I just like, okay, whatever. I didn't want to go by myself at the time. And so this past year, starting this podcast, talking to you and other guests that's been on the episode and I just spoke to like at jams, I'm learning a lot. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is great stuff. I was like, maybe this is what I've been seeking, because if you can't find your hometown, you got to go out and find it somewhere, right? And so
Yeah, you need to. I
so
mean, because how many times have you heard people like Renegade say that it's very rare that you find a world champion that doesn't leave their hometown? Like you always have to be going somewhere, right? And obviously there's anomalies. There's people that they basically train on their own, but the only time that they go abroad is when there's a battle and they do really well. But for the most part, from what I hear, you have to surround yourself with people that are thinking along a similar wavelength and are trying to achieve the same as you, right? Because I don't know about you, but I sort of wanted to be on those world level platforms. I didn't get there, but it doesn't mean that like for others that are thinking the same thing, the opportunities available to them. And now with lots more events, with the way that the media is working out as well,
for sure,
there's always an opportunity there. And the best thing that you can do is if there's no one around about you, you have to get to these events, man. You have to get to them, whether they're local, national, regional, European, whatever sort of continental events that you can really get yourself over to. You have to get there because it's not only about seeing who's around, it's the people that are being flown in. Like, because if I go to Norway, for example, because I've been to Soul Sessions in Oslo, shout out to those guys. They've invited me out at least a couple of times to film their event years ago. They would basically bring in people from all over the world, like to their event, that a lot of those Norwegian cats wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet. So it's opportunities like that you have to really latch onto. And when you say that you went to that event for the first time, you know, how often is it that an event that's essentially right on your doorstep, you've got all these world champions, all these OGs, all these people with so much advice and knowledge and wisdom. It's right there. So you have to take it.
Wow, that's dope. Yeah, yeah, like you said, right on your back door, that one event, all these people flying in, world class. Who you link up could and meet and greet. It's amazing stuff how events, and so shout out to all the promoters and event planners that created the events to what it is.
That's it. And there's this idea, I think you hear that people are against the idea of it's not what you know, it's who you know. But it's so
Yeah.
important, especially when it comes to like wanting to innovate, like you say, with organizing events and things. If people don't know you, how can they trust you? And I'm not saying that in a callous way,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
it's something to think about. Whereas I'd been filming events for such a long time that it's easy for me to be introed to people. And I'm not saying this in like an egotistical way, but it's like you ask people if they've heard of me, and they probably have because I've been filming for about 10 or so years. I've helped people get on a platform that they otherwise might not have had the opportunity to. And that's because I wanted to. It's not been for any other reason except I felt like they deserved it. So when it comes to me needing, if I want to interview people or if I need help with something, then I know that people are either my friend or they're a friend of a friend, or maybe even a friend of a friend of a friend. But at least I know that it's easier for me to get in touch with folk. And I think that's very undervalued.
That's fire stuff. Yeah, that is definitely undervalued. They say nowadays, they say, was that there's a slogan I read. I can't think of it right now, but who you know and who you build rapport with, networking, is currently the your currency in a sense, right down the road. So who you know, like you can see right now, a lot of influencer are getting more into the entrepreneur side, such as you see Mr. Beast, Logan Paul throwing not just content, but they're doing products and so on and so on. But that's a whole nother story upon its story. But no, it's great stuff that yeah, that's what I see down the road. Maybe 10, 20 years, a lot of influencers can be a big part of the if they get into the business entrepreneur side, they can have a lot of influence and build a big, a lot of invoice compared to the big companies. But that's another story within it. I actually had you mentioned content. Do you think content in media helps with b-boys and b-girls today?
It's a core part of what we do now, if I'm honest with you. It wasn't always a core part of what we do. I think there is a glorification of it, especially with like raw footage from early days. But now it's essentially
Right.
like a core part because, you know, in a way, how do people know an event happened if there wasn't any footage from it? It's almost as if, like, how do you know anybody was training if there wasn't any training footage? And, you know, we've become so accustomed to seeing footage right away from events, partly because of us, partly because we would get footage uploaded right after the event. You know, we'd lose some sleep over it, but we knew that we'd be the first to be viewed. So maybe we've set a standard that's a bit unrealistic, a bit unhealthy, but hey, this is where we are right now. I think it's actually
Yeah.
quite hard for people to make a big name for themselves if they're not conscious about making content or how they're being seen in terms of content as well. And it's one thing for me to dive into like how people could make it, but I think just on a general level, some people really are against the idea of there being so much footage and so much content. You have the choice to
Right.
see it or not. You have the choice to engage with it or not. It's just there, right? And I think those that get the most out of it are those that are taking advantage and making the most of it. So if you're looking to make a living from this culture, whether it's on a competition level, you want the endorsements, you want the music videos or the modeling contracts, whatever it would be, you have to have a presence online, and that's where content is important. And if you even hear about some companies not taking people on if they have a low number of followers. And it's a bit
Right.
callous, and it's a bit kind of, in my eyes, it's a bit weird, but from a business objective, you can see why. So I think nowadays it's something that we have to work around, and we have to make the most of it.
Damn. Yeah, most definitely. That's some fire stuff. Like I know that down the road content would always be good and always be there, right? And so I think it's super awesome to we live in a time where content in social media is, it's almost sense of an asset where people will see your stuff, like you're saying. If they haven't seen your stuff, how do we know you're training, or how do you know if it happened if we don't follow you? Because everyone's always so busy doing their own thing and who they want to follow, who want they watch and stuff. And so yeah, no, man, it's so much great stuff going with it down the road. I definitely want to kind of nerd out and talk more about it, because I'm definitely I like talking about it, and so I definitely want to talk more, hopefully down the road. But yeah, definitely, I believe
Let's do
content.
it.
It's good stuff, man. It's definitely building things and building, rapport of your audience. And in the business perspective, they definitely, yeah, it's a whole system where followers or the influence, and then hey, they don't want to work with you because, yeah, like you mentioned, low followers. But if you have a high followers, things can turn around, and see how things go, and how you can take that tool for your advantage for down the road to hopefully make a living out of it, or different ways to
Yeah.
work that system,
So
right?
there's one
And
thing I want to add there. There's an over reliance on going viral to somehow make it
uh,
in this culture. If you talk to any world champion right now, I mean, we're filming this at the time that the Red Bull BC One is happening. If
right,
you
yeah,
if you were to talk to any of those guys, they value the circles, they value the originality, they value like the traditional way of making a name for yourself. Because a lot of those people there, maybe not all of them, but at least a good handful of them, came up the hard way, shall we say, where they had to rep and they had to build a name, they had to win when not a lot of people were looking at them. And
right,
nowadays, you've got maybe someone has one killer round at an event, they go viral, all these opportunities open up for them, but it's a bit too much for them. Sometimes we see it where they don't live up to that expectation, and
yeah.
it's a bit of a cruel game, but that's the way it is, and you just have to be ready for it. And I think what you're finding is that the people that do really well, they're constantly working, like they're constantly training, they're constantly refining their work, shall we say. And whenever they go viral, they're ready for it because they're just going to do their thing all the time. Whereas some people, they go viral once and then you don't really hear from them again because
Uh-huh.
they underdelivered.
That goes tap into a lot of there's a saying, it's gosh, I can't think of these quotes, but anyways,
When you fail to
stay
prepare, you
ready, so
prepare to
you're
fail.
yeah, in a sense, always got to be ready, right? And so yeah, and just you never know when the opportunity or that can be at your door. It could be a week from now, it could be 3 weeks from now, 3 months, and so it's best to always stay ready.
Of course. I mean, you have to, right? Especially with how often events are going on.
Oh yeah,
Essentially,
yeah.
if you wanted to battle every weekend, then you could. There's something happening everywhere in the world every single week, whether you like it or not. You could battle every week if you wanted to. And I like the idea of there being seasons. I like the idea that a lot of the world championship events are happening at the tail end of the year. And I like the fact that the qualifiers tend to happen around about the start of the year, with a few exceptions with some events like Outbreak and IBE and the World Battle, for example, happening around August time, September time. It's a nice addition, but you also get to think some people burn out really easily because there's too much going on, especially if breaking's the
Yeah.
only way they're making their living and they have to be everywhere, they have to keep making a name for themselves. It's very easy to be burnt out, to get a little jaded by things. And I think with this whole with with the sort of there's a newer way of approaching things now where you're more conscious of your well-being, you're conscious of your performance, that is good to take things in seasons, I think.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Definitely the burnout, it is there, you know? You got to take time and breaks. I was kind of a little bit burnt out making content this whole year. I think I, d- uh, well, once this recording is done, I think I'm over at like uh, maybe 38 episodes, and I still got a lot of, behind video editing. I'm like really behind on video. I'm trying to catch up, right? And so getting a burnt out sense because it's just me doing it, doing all the like short forms, long forms, and just editing them. I wish in my mind I was like, yeah, I could do it while on top of balancing, my life with work and then my family. I got 3 kids, and so balancing it all where it's structured, where I don't feel I need to like, yeah, I need to push this pie video out, but then can it wait so I can take care of other things and stuff like that. So balancing is definitely there, and getting back into that groove, groove. You're like, okay, I like doing this, talking to you, building content, creating content, and then the back end's a whole different story too. So
It
doing
really
it
is,
all,
man.
every hat, it's like, oh man, I have that vision, but when you get down and put the actions in, it's different.
It really
So
is it's a completely different thing. But the good thing is you're at a point where this is a part of your lifestyle. So you work it at a pace that suits you. I first found that like filming interviews, recording content, I had the enthusiasm to do it week after week after week, but I didn't have the time for it. You're trying to balance a
right,
full-time job and other obligations that you feel as though you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not matching
right,
your enthusiasm. But we're both at a point where, because it's not our full-time income really doing this, we can take our time with it. But you can build a consistency that doesn't rely on something coming out every day or every week. And
right.
that way you build up the consistency over time, and that way people will still have your name in their mind as long as you communicate to people, yeah, once every 2 weeks you'll see another episode, or once every week you'll see another reel on my page, or something like that. You take the edge off. It makes it a whole lot easier for yourself. I don't know if
Yeah.
you needed that advice. I don't know if there's anyone that's listening to this that's thinking the same thing, but that's how I've managed to work around it. Is just being a bit more realistic with my expectations, and
For
at the
sure.
same time not being so hard on myself if I don't meet them all the time.
Nice, nice. No, that's great stuff. And whoever's listening, definitely that advice is it's awesome. It's great. It's something I in the back of my mind I was like, yes, I know that, but sometimes my advice I don't hear it. But when you hear it for someone else, you kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I get back to that motion and get back to it. So damn, dude, thank you.
So
That's
good.
dope. And I wanted to tap into a few other things within your breaking, within the content. I know that you're part of the stance element, and also Throwdown magazine. But first, let's talk about a little bit about the stance. How did that develop? How did you get involved, or with the stance element?
Yeah, so we set up the crew in 2014, but we were already filming events earlier than that. So when I was filming events from around 2010, 2011 onwards, I was already in touch with everybody. We were already sort of filming for someone else, filming under a different name. And then the opportunity came up to really do our own thing. And the good thing was we kept our network. We managed to keep the relationships.
Good
We
thing.
managed to sort of keep, and a lot of people were on board. One of them was Mex One, may he rest in peace. He
Oh yeah.
saw the value in what we did when we were filming the earlier events, and we just found that, like, because it was just us and there weren't any extra people, we were very lean in the way that we did things, but we still had the enthusiasm to cover events. We were at the first Silverback Open. I was
Oh
actually at
nice.
the first Silverback Open. I was in America at the time and linked up with Daniel Zhu, and we were there and we filmed the event. And actually, filming Silverback Open
Oh,
initially in our early days really propelled us forward. That was one of our first events that really made a name for ourselves. And yeah, I mean, the ethos for us was just we wanted to film what we liked. We thought that
right,
the
right.
culture should be represented in a certain way. We thought that the angles should be a certain way. Obviously, our approach has changed over the years because of the types of
Right.
content we're filming as well. We don't always film things in a traditional like b-boy way, shall we say? Especially because we don't film only
Hmm.
breaking nowadays, right? Which is amazing in and of itself. Didn't even think that we'd reach that point, if I'm honest with you, but here we are. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's basically been 10 years of hard work from everybody to really sort of make this what it is. And I think I'm at a point where I can say we've had a big part in changing the way that people consume dance. We've had a big part to play in that. We've had a lot of celebrities tune into dance because of our content over the years. We've had Joe Rogan feature us a number of times. It would be amazing to even have a chat with
Oh,
him
wow.
as well. Like we know the impact that we have. We're very thankful for it. We're very grateful for it. But we know that it's just been such hard work to make sure that people know that we care about the culture. We're also dancers. We're all dancers ourselves, and that's what separates our content from other people.
Fire, dude. Fire. That's dope. A little bit before that, so a little bit about the grit and the grind, the hustle to get to where it was. Did you guys have a vision of where it is today? Was it something when you started it, be like, okay, we mapped out a plan, we're trying to figure out, or is it just kind of like we just wanted the film content what we like and just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and it kind of, like you mentioned, the silverback kind of give you that boost of visual, and so
It was more the latter, but then we got a bit more organized as we went along. We just wanted to keep filming because one, we're all friends, so we just wanted to keep in touch and wanted to sort of keep a bond that way. But then also we weren't too sure how far it would take us because we all have, at the time especially, we all had other things going on in our
for
lives.
sure.
You couldn't really dedicate every week or even every month to it. Like there would be seasons, shall we say, where I was out there filming more than others, but then there would be times where some of the American guys were out there filming more than I was. And that's just how it
Mm.
was at that time. We didn't have the demand that we do right now.
Uh-huh.
But it's only over time where we saw the potential, we saw the virality of what we were doing, as well as the impact as well. Like, as soon as you realize that, I have to be careful with how I say this, but as soon as we
Uh-huh.
realized that certain people could make a name for themselves off the back of our content, and rightfully so because they've put in the work, but as soon as we filmed them and now some dancers are able to make a living off of our content, or at least they got
Right.
opportunities from being filmed by us, that's when we know that, okay, there's ways to organize ourselves so that we can continue having this success.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fire. You definitely, the platform is amazing. You guys created a huge name for it.
Yeah. But the other thing
And
as well, just to be clear, it's one thing to say that we've made people famous with our content. It's also gone the other way where we're thankful for everyone that's tuned in to us because we wouldn't be where we are without people watching us. So we're very much aware that it's a two-way thing. We're very much aware that without the people, without the community, and without everybody paying attention to us, we wouldn't have had the expansion that we've had. So we know that it's a two-way thing, and it's just really important that I say that so people don't think that we're all egotistical and just very much in our own heads about it.
yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. That's amazing, dude. Definitely, as I was looking through content beforehand, I was like, oh yeah, stance. Oh, dude, it'll be sick to be on stance, or get your round on stance, right? As a consumer, as a viewer of the platform. And so I think what you mentioned, that's some real that's real great stuff, real
Yeah.
good
So
stuff,
let me
and
share this then,
impact
right?
others.
So a lot of the time a lot of the time people have a problem with us is because we haven't featured them. But it's also because they haven't maybe approached us in a way that works. So the best thing that you can do for
Right.
any media team is just to get to know us. Just get to know us as people. If you see us at an event, just say what's up and then just continue that conversation after, because the chances are, if we already know your face, if we already recognize you, if we know that you're a decent person and you're not a dickhead, if we see you somewhere else, we'll actually want to help you. We'll want to film a feature with you. We'll be on board with you, and it's not favoritism. It's just we know you. Whereas if you've just approached us and you sent us a reel, but you want us to share it, I mean, we don't know you, or you haven't had that interaction with us. And it's not to say that
Yeah.
we wouldn't ever share something that someone's sent us and we don't know them. Like of course we've done that. But if you want that continued relationship and that continued recognition, shall we say, it's a good idea for you to be our friends. Because if we're friends with you, it's a lot easier for us to work with you. Because who doesn't want to work with their friends?
Right. Right. No, that's fire. And that kind of dabbles into not just the media, but kind of lifestyle of other businesses too, right? I also do real estate. I'm a real estate agent here in Portland, Oregon. And so one thing we go by is called 33 touches with our clients or whoever we speak to, trying to get our name out there either through email, text, visual, meet and greet, until someone wants to work with you, right? And there's the saying, it's like you want to work with like who you like, know, and trust. So moving forward with that, it's just, I think it's just a lifestyle every day with if you want to build things and connect with networking with others, it just give it that time and get out there. And one thing, I was nervous at the last freestyle to talk to all the top B-boys, influencer, superstar, B-boys, it was nerve wracking just going up to people and like, hey, what's up? That it's just like you just want to socialize, like ask some questions. And so I figure what helps a lot is they are also people where just kind of block out that celebrity type of thing and just talk to them as a person. And it definitely helps me go up to other people and saying what's up and stuff like that.
That's it, because you want to be remembered for what you add to all these conversations. If you're just a person that goes, oh, hey, Rock's right, I saw you battle, can I get a selfie with you? How many times does he have to do that every fucking weekend, right? Whereas if you actually want to get to know them, just be really curious. That's the best thing that you can do, is just be really curious, ask them things. But it's also timing as well, because if someone's getting ready to battle and you're going, hey, I want to know how I can qualify for the top 16, wrong fucking time. Just find your moment, pick your moment. Don't it's gonna sound so weird when I say this, but don't be a weirdo about it. Just be yourself. Don't come across as a sort of suspecting figure, because there's already enough suspecting figures in our scene. We really don't need any more.
Yeah, that's for sure. Nice. All right, so Throw Down Magazine.
Yes.
Tell me
Throwdown
about
Magazine.
it. What's the vision within it, or what was the concept of it? Are you the only one currently working on this project or platform for the community?
So if we go back to the pandemic, I really got into boxing and into MMA. And the way that I got into boxing and MMA was from channels like IFL TV and the Mac Life, where they were able to get more of a deeper sense of each art form with the content that they made, because they were commercial, but not the normal media, like the normal major media platforms where there's more rules and more restrictions in place.
Okay.
So my love for the sports really improved, because you got a more well-rounded sense of the cultures within those sports. And I thought, we're already filming events, we're already filming dancers, but we don't have a news platform. We don't have a platform that just covers the news within dance and movement cultures. There isn't a dance and movement magazine. There isn't really like a commercial thing except for Stance and all these other channels. We need
Okay.
something that ties it all in together. So I thought, wouldn't it be amazing if there just was a news platform that covered dance and movement culture and also tricking and also free running? So I set up the project just around about the time of the Olympics, actually. And basically, it's just a news page. It's just a news page that covers events, that covers the athletes, that covers other dancers, and really, I want it to be the most trusted news source within our community, right?
Okay.
So instead of having to watch a Stan Selman's video to find out who won a battle, instead of having to go to Red Bull BC1 to find out who won each regional cipher, instead of having to go to Hooked tournament in the Netherlands to find out who won their event, you would just have a news page that had it all there. And the idea is that over the years there would be like a whole website with daily articles, with features, with like a members only access type of thing, sort of coming away from like the production side and the filming side of it, but more so being treated like a news page. So I think in the next couple of years, because of how more commercial our cultures are really being, I think there's a good opportunity for something like this to exist.
Nice. Now that's tight. When you just said that, something popped in mind. There's a website called GameSpot.com or like IGN.com, which is meant for gaming, but they have newsletters. They'll throw in some trailers, but they'll rank from like 1 to 10 top games in GameSpot's opinion, right? And so what you just mentioned, it kind of, I don't know why, I think of video game when that popped up, and it's almost like a newsletter where you can jump in there and see what's upcoming and see about the video game as a sense of, the competition or who won the event or more backstory through it. And so, no, I think that's great stuff. And I
Yeah,
think you're working on something that's still new for the scene.
it's
So,
very new, and it will take a little bit of time for people to come around to the idea that you're going to get more coverage than what's already out there. It is just me working on this at the moment for a couple of hours a week, but when the interest builds and there's opportunities there, definitely looking to bring more people on board, especially with the number of events that are going on, especially with the ambitions that we have. Well, the ambitions that I have for it, definitely
right,
going
yeah,
to need a team, because the success we've had already, like with filming events and filming dancers and everything, has come because we're a team, we're a unit. I say that
for
we're
sure.
a crew because the same way that other crews in dancing, they have a bond. There's a goal. You're around each other a lot. You're constantly building off of each other. We do that as well in stance. So we see ourselves as a crew, right? Some people may think, oh, well, you're not dancing, so are you a crew? Well, fuck all of you. We're a crew, right?
Right, yeah.
So the same way that Throwdown can really be successful with a team, but at the moment we just want our MVP. We just want the minimum amount of work to really get us going there. Not
For sure.
minimum effort, but just what we can show as a minimum.
Dope. Dope. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. No, that's exciting stuff, and I'm looking forward to what's down the road for the future for it. And don't stop, keep going. Yeah.
Same here, same here. I'm looking forward to it. We're only on Instagram right now at Throwdown Mag, if you want to give us a follow.
Yeah, yeah. What other resources out there? Do you guys have a website yet, or is that still in the works?
That won't be in the works until at
Okay.
least in another year or two.
Nice. Nice. That's tight. That's tight. Yeah. I bought for this name, the CypherBeastT. Actually, I bought the CypherBeastTV.com. I actually bought the website, but it's like a 10-year until I have that name. But I haven't done anything with it yet. It's in the works down the road too. So I just kind of wanted to lock down the name before someone else snatch it or something like that, you know. And so,
That's it. I mean, we have that. We have the handles for other platforms, but just haven't really done
yeah,
anything with them yet.
for sure. Damn, cool, man. Man, there's so much there to talk about today. You know, we mentioned the Red Bull CPC finals is happening today. This is, you know, aired on 12/7 or December 7th, 2024. Man, the lineup is insane, and I actually really enjoyed how they had the qualifiers pick who they want to compete against. I
I
thought
really
that
like
was
that
pretty
too.
dope. So that's really tight. Kind
I
of makes
really,
it
I really
interesting and
like the
twist.
fact. I really like the fact that that the hunger is there. I think that's what it showed. That the hunger is there from all of the competitors to make hype battles right from the start. What I
Ooh.
will say is that I have an appreciation for the way that certain events are ran nowadays, where they seed all the battles, where number one battles number 16, number two battles number 15, and do things that way, because you always want a hype final battle or a hype semi-final battle. And sometimes we're at events where if they're picking names out of a hat, you've got two people battling in the first round that maybe could have been a final battle. And of course it mixes things
Yeah.
up and is really cool. There's a time and a place for it. At BC1, that's definitely a time and a place for it. But at most other events that are trying to
Yeah.
raise the commercial value of events and raise the commercial value of all these different battles, having having that setup is going to be key.
Nice. Damn, that's tight. Heck yes. Yeah. Are you able to speak a little bit about the so the Olympics just happened within this year, but before getting qualified, there's the OQS, which is with WDS qualifiers, so they have to rank in the system to get enough points to make it, right? And that, I mean, that's a whole nother thing in the story. I don't know how much you know about it, but what are your thoughts with the breaking for the breaking community being in the Olympics?
I was a fan of it. I really was a fan of it because it's about time that we got the respect that we deserved as a culture.
Yeah,
Whether or not it was the best organizing for it is a different thing. But I think that the opportunity came at a perfect time when there's more eyeballs on the culture. One thing that people might not know is that the Olympics committee looked at our analytics to actually see the youth appeal of breaking. We had a part to play. I don't know if it was a major part or not, but they got to see our analytics, see our audience analytics, and actually really see that breaking resonates with young people. And because the Paris
oh, right.
2024 Olympics wanted to focus on that youth appeal, that's why breaking was successful. Now, it was a very interesting 1 or 2 years with the qualifiers because a lot of dancers weren't used to doing round robins. They were not used to doing
Right,
round
yeah.
robins. They were not used to, having to conserve their rounds, but then also do the best that they could in the early stages so that they could actually qualify for the top eight. I think the way that they did the rankings was interesting as well. And I liked how everybody could battle at all these different events all over the world and actually work their way up the league. Because I really like this idea of a league, especially in other sports where you see leagues all the time. I think it would be really cool if in the future we made more use of that. But I feel as though the right people were there at the Olympics. I feel as though that, considering all the battles that happened, considering like the range of talent that exists in breaking, it was a great representation of what our culture has to offer. You know, you could make the argument that certain people should have been there over others, or, some of the judges for certain battles wasn't all that good and certain people missed out on an opportunity. But if we really look at it from far away, that top 16 for all the categories was near enough exactly what you would see at any world level event. You know, whether there might be more
Right.
people from certain countries than others. In my opinion, it was essentially what you would see at any major level event. So
Yeah.
it wasn't as if there was a lack of talent. I mean, one part of, you know, why certain people were there over others was because of this universality, you know, giving people a fair opportunity from different parts of the world. And that's where someone like Raygun managed to get their opportunity. And look, like, see, before we sort of carry on, she got her opportunity fair and square, right? Regardless of
Right. Right.
all the politics around who the judges were. If you do look at the judges, it was a pretty fair panel, right? Raygun won her opportunity there. So regardless of what you think of her dancing, regardless of what you think of her performance, that was the level of the Oceania qualifier. Whether you like it or not, that was the level of the Oceania qualifier. And I feel as though that one thing the Olympics did mess up on a little bit was the number of qualifiers with the refugee team being considered as well, right? Because at Talash qualified for the Olympics being under the refugee team, that meant that B Girl India had to do an extra battle essentially for no reason, right? Talash got smoked. I'm sorry, but she did. She got
Right.
smoked. And that meant India wasted 3 rounds. And
Yeah.
what really should
Yeah.
have happened is that they should have, instead of it being only 10 that qualify from the OQS, there should have only been 9. Because then if Talash was there, it would have made a top 16. And then look, if you're given that opportunity to battle and you're not good enough, then you get exposed. And that's what happens, right? But the fact
Right.
that
Yeah.
India had to do another battle, and I don't know if that worked against her or not, but she was the only one that had to do more rounds.
Right. Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
otherwise, the event as a whole, I think all the battles were great. I think all the battles were a lot of fun to watch. Whether or not the judging was right or wrong, and not everyone will have a different opinion of it. But I can't really complain about who made it to the top 8 and who won the event. Because sometimes with breaking, sometimes it's your day, other times it's not.
For
And
sure.
we just have to accept that, like, Hong Ten can win a BC1 for the third time, but he didn't qualify for the top 8. And sometimes that happens. It's unfortunate that it was on the Olympics where he didn't make it to the top 8. But look,
Right.
shit happens. And I'm sure that he doesn't lose any sleep over it because it's a great experience to have.
Yeah. Nice. That's tight, dude. I love that. And I think it's definitely, like you mentioned, it's a well-respected breaking deserves to be on that floor to show the whole world. And I think it's a great for the community and for all of us. And hopefully down the road we'll see more opportunities like that. Um, yeah.
I mean, we have to do the best we can to raise the commercial value now because it's on the Olympics, because it was in the Olympics. The dancers and organizers and others within our community really have to make an effort now to keep the appeal up because we don't want the community to lose its shine because we didn't take an opportunity to really build on that, where maybe dancers can get more endorsements or other major companies can get involved with events so there's a bigger prize pool. I feel as though that, okay, we're not in the 2028 Olympics. We might not need the Olympics as a community, but I know that being in the 2024 Olympics was a big deal for us, where we're seeing the likes of Phil Wizard constantly getting endorsements. We're seeing Victor constantly like getting endorsements. That platform changes people's lives. I mean, we've seen
Yeah.
it on the positive side, but we've also seen it with Raygun, where that platform can negatively impact you.
Right.
So the fact is that we have to raise the commercial value of our culture now. We have to say that we have the community aspect, we have all the grassroots, the elements of it, but there now should be a push for something in the mainstream now. because we see that the videos are getting millions and millions of views every day.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
more people tuning in. There's more money to be won in these battles. There's a growing need for what we do. So I think the separation should be more distinct now, where there's always a community focus. But if people want to make their living as an athlete with breaking, let's go. Let's do it. I would love to
Yeah.
see it.
Hell yeah. Love that question. I love that answer. One thing on consumer or my side, hopefully maybe other people can relate. Um, I'm at 37 right now, but I think it helps pave the way of opportunities for our youth where they'll see and well respective to their parents where like, okay, we see gymnastics can get to Olympic level. Now, since breaking's been on that stage, it's opportunity or something looking forward for the youth to grow and possibly get to that Olympian level, right? And so I think that's great. Like if I had that, or not had it, but if that was maybe on the stage prior 10 years ago when I was felt like I was super active, maybe my family or parents or whoever can be a better support system to do more of it, even though it doesn't seem like I'm making a living off breaking, making funding, supporting family, stuff like that. And so I think seeing those type of stages, it just gives a respectful vision or a respectful stage for the general public. So these are my inputs, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. If I told my parents I want to break, I want to try to get that Olympic level, they might be more supportive and be like, okay, let's do it. Let's go. What kind of trainings do you need to get there, right? Instead of, because they don't watch the Red Bulls, they don't see these other things, but everyone knows the Olympic stage. So,
That's it.
yeah,
And if you look at it this way, the athleticism of like of us, the athleticism that dancers have is on par with the other sports, really. Because there's not a lot of sports out there that utilize every muscle group being upside down with the force, with the speed that we do things at, just taking away the artistic element of it, just on the physical level, there's not a lot that really tops what we do. Maybe climbing, maybe tricking, maybe boxing, but otherwise there isn't really much else, and that should be admired by people. Like the graft, the passion, the will to, work your way up to these world level events. That should be admired, and especially as you said, if you're a kid and you saw it in the Olympics and you saw that as an option, would your parents be on board with it? I think it's a great thing for people's parents to be on board with, not only just for the community element, but just to give people a focus and something to work towards. But it takes a community to make that happen, though. That's the thing. It takes a collective to say, okay, we want more money in the community. We want more exposure on us. Not exposure for free, but we want more avenues for dancers to earn money, for organizers to earn money, for essentially the whole ecosystem to thrive. And that only really happens when you think bigger, because
right. Yeah.
we have this tendency as a community to keep things close to our chest, to keep the community close to our chest. And we've all heard the phrase, each one teach one, but some people think that means you have to teach for free or you have to teach for pennies. And that can rob you of a big picture life. I think this thought that
Yeah. No.
you always have to be community minded and work for free or work for hardly anything. It stunts our growth as a community. And that's why when I say that the distinction needs to be made, it's for that reason. And it's not to say that there isn't any money to be made from the community aspect, because you can teach, you can organize, there's the social work avenue, and using breaking as a way to gauge young people and other communities. And social work, I know that there's dancers that do social work exactly for that reason. But on a commercial level, we need names recognized on a high level that way,
Man. No, that's Dude, that's so tight. No, it's awesome, man. I see the, there's a great question tapping into while we're speaking of. What's your vision within breaking down the road? I know you said you guys setting a standard with media footages. The Olympics just happened, so there's a lot of endorsements, possibly more opportunities down the road. Uh, where do you see after this year ends coming forward in the next couple of years for breaking?
There's a few ways that I can answer it because I can say what I'd like to see versus what I think
Right.
will happen, right? What I think will happen, if I'm being more realistic, we'll see a little bit of growth. We'll see a bit more money in events. There may be a few more endorsements from people. But, considering the way that things are going right now, I'm not sure too much will be different, except for
Right.
maybe certain people becoming more personalities, being on like mainstream TV. There's probably going to be a little bit more to that. But what I would love to see is the top 1% of dancers being treated as the top 1% of athletes in the world.
Oh.
Um, you know how boxing have their events and it's always one on one. It's not a knockout like bracket. It's always one on
Mm-hmm.
one and they have a card just full of fights. I think breaking could also reach that level, especially from an entertainment value point. I think that if
Right.
you put the top 10 dancers against each other and you only had like 5 battles and they each had to do like between 5 and 10 rounds, sort of like who can roast the most, but on a very commercial level, that's something that appeals to the general public. That's something that they understand. That's something that can be sold and an amazing opportunity for everyone involved. I think if there were more events that maybe did things that way, you could see some really awesome things happen. I'm
Yeah.
not too sure exactly what else would be different, but I think we'll see a little bit more growth. I think we'll see a little bit more financial gain come in, and everybody deserves that. When people talk about this commercial influx of like companies coming in, they're putting all their money into dancers and there's logos everywhere. I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
okay with that because not everyone's going to get that opportunity. And in some way, it doesn't concern most of our community whether that happens or not. Because some people, it's
Yeah.
almost like this way where when Red Bull All Stars first came about, 2007, 2008, and now there's a whole team of athletes that represent Red Bull at all these different events.
Right. Right.
That doesn't concern 99% of the world because 99% of the world doesn't get that opportunity. So their life will
Yeah.
continue just as it does. It matters to the people that are trying to get to that level and are pretty much essentially close to it. That's the type that it concerns. And it was the same with the Olympics, where not everybody was going the Olympic route. So if you're not thinking about the
Yeah.
Olympics, it really doesn't concern you. You might have your opinion on how it's all going to work out, and everyone has a right to have that opinion, especially if you really care about the scene, you care about how things look. Of course, raise your voice and say something about it. But the reality is, on a practical level, the Olympic route wasn't possible for like 90% of our community. So don't worry
Right.
about that. Just let the 10% that are focused on that, let them focus on that. Because I know once the Olympics is done, they'll come back. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Most definitely. Heck yeah, man. What inspires you to do all this, to keep going and being involved in the community, or inspires yourself to just keep you motive?
There's a few things actually. I would say that the first is it's given me a life that I never would have imagined. Like being a kid that was anxious, I had a speech impediment, I could hardly communicate at all, to now being at a point where, I've had this rich life. Not always rich in terms of finances, but just had this
Right.
rich life. It's incredible, really. And you almost just want to continue living that rich life because just of all the things that it's given you. It gave me a voice, it gave me confidence, it gave me a social life, it gave me a community to be a part of. And really, I
Yeah.
just want to see the best for our culture. I just want to see our culture do really well on a commercial level now. Because everybody in breaking, if they want to make a living off of it, they definitely deserve to. Like, we've
Right.
put
Yeah.
in a lot of work on a community level, at a grassroots level, even on like the world stages. Like, if you want to make a living off of it in any capacity, you should have that opportunity to. So I think with my
Yeah.
involvement, I just want to tell good stories, man. Like, I just want to tell good stories
For sure.
that people can be inspired by, that people can one day look at and go, that's what it takes to succeed at this level, or that's the mentality of a breaker, or oh well, these are the opportunities that are available. This is how I see myself, right? I'm lucky to have
Yeah.
had conversations with some amazing people, right? I've had conversations with people that have maybe rubbed me up the wrong way a little bit, but I've also had many incredible conversations, and more people need to hear about it. This culture's transformed a lot of people's lives for the better, and that option should be available to anybody. If people want a better life, then breaking should be one avenue for them. And I just want to do my part to make sure that those
Yeah.
stories are seen and heard everywhere. So when I said to you, I think at the start, or even when we were off camera, I'm
Uh huh.
not really breaking anymore. I've taken a step back from competition. I
Right.
realize I've reached my peak in breaking, and now I want to put my energy into the storytelling, into the reporting, the interviewing side, and that's kind of where I see myself now, just sort of being that person that can really communicate what the culture is thinking on a commercial level. So you'll
Mm.
hopefully see a lot more of me in these interviews, even with my own podcast, or hopefully on a major broadcast. We'll see.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
what pushes me at the moment, just to tell good stories and to hopefully share all the stories from our community on a global level.
Ooh. Love it, man. I
What
love
about you
that.
though? What do you think? Like, what do you, with the position you're in right now, how do you see your involvement over the coming years?
Oh man. Like you kind of mentioned, I want to uncover. I want to learn stories from some of the people that I've spoken to. Some of the grades are the things that people are done through, right? Speaking to you, which is amazing. I did one a little while ago of Daniel Zhu. I did one with Cross One, and talking to these people that I would never ever think I would speak to in my life started from creating a podcast, which in my mind before that, it's kind of like in the visions like, hey, these people are doing really dope stuff, really cool stuff. Like either how they doing it, what's inspiration, how, what involvement it gets them to do this type of stuff at a high level. And, I get to a point, in my whole life, like either comfortable where I'm at, playing small, and then I get kind of tired and be like, well, there's more things out there in the world. Like, how are people are already doing it? Because there's proof. There's people you see, and I just want to get in, like, because when I was throwing events and jams here, I just felt like I was the only one. None of my crewmates had my back. None of that, and so I was like, I want to do really dope stuff. I had like this vision. I want to keep growing and doing it, but things can stump you for a little bit, make you feel not validated to do it, and then I stopped breaking for a while. I had my kids, and then just out there to learn what other people are doing, and how do I keep that movement from keep learning from these greats, from these people that are involved with doing high level things. How can I learn from them and then also contribute my knowledge within that, which come about with like the podcast that the viewers are listening. Hopefully they take a lot of great value and inspiration listening to this, and hopefully help someone down the road that paving a way for them. That's what I'm thinking as a local cat from Portland, Oregon. Maybe I'm asking questions they're thinking, but they just haven't gone out there and done it. And versus when I'm doing it, right? And so I'm learning on the go as much as I can and talking to people, and just always have to stay at the uncomfortable state where it's yes, it doesn't feel comfortable. I don't really want to go say what's up. I'm kind of nervous. All these people are talking to them, but just in my mind, just they're just people. Just go out there and just do it, and try to keep it as creative in my mindset. If I'm not breaking, I have that creative outlet. Maybe I'll push it into content, into social media or video editing, stuff like that, to kind of outlet that creative in my mind if I'm not dancing. So there's more to it too, creating a brand with it, and I want to just seeing this really dope events, Silverback, the Pro Breaking Tour, all these, about a year, I'd be like, what am I? How come I haven't gone to these events, right, in the past when I was learning? And so, like, paving that wave to hopefully inspire others, inspire the community that things are possible out there. You just have to believe it and achieve it.
Of course, and that's all that we can do. We can only really add to the culture what we feel is needed. And that's actually how you solve any problems. Just what are the problems that need solved, and then you just make that happen. And I think that's the amazing thing about our culture, which is that we have the opportunity to add to it in the way that we want. And I think when you're saying that maybe other people are thinking the same thing, I absolutely think that's right. I think that there's a need for podcasts, there's a need for interviews, but I also think for the dancers themselves, it's a great idea to keep things on a positive, and it's a great idea that whenever these podcasts and things are coming up, to just talk about all the amazing things that are going on, because not sure if you've seen this, the way that I've seen it is there's been a track record of negativity that comes out of these interviews. Whenever an OG or an innovator or a pioneer gets interviewed, I'll just say it how it is. They're always talking about what's wrong. They're always talking about how things were better back in the day. They're always talking about how dancers of now, they're unoriginal, they're uninspired, they're like all these different things. But these are the people that are helping these OGs make a living. So why on earth are you saying these things? Some of these OGs are only able to keep their name because of people that they're calling unoriginal, that want to learn from them, right? In my eyes, it's a wasted opportunity if you're continually being asked these things on podcasts and on panels, but all you've got is something negative to say.
Right.
I really think it's a wasted opportunity. Not that it's a waste of time, because look, there's a time and a place to talk about where things are going wrong maybe, or like the difference in mentalities, but there's always a way to reframe it to a positive. And I think when you're talking about how can young people get into breaking if they know it's in the Olympics, I've had conversations over the years where some parents don't want their kids involved in hip hop because of the negativity and because of all the politics and because of all the shit that can happen, because the thing about hip hop is that hip hop, like, drug culture isn't really a thing in hip hop. It's a people error. But how many times have you been to jams and there's this constant weed smell and there's all these different things going on? I'm not surprised that these parents don't want to bring their kids along if these are things that are going on. And I think it's the same when it comes to these attitudes as well. And it's not necessarily something that we can all control, because sometimes people look at things a bit differently. And that's why we are where we are. But I do think that with our culture being more, they're starting to get used to podcasts and starting to get used to having articles written about them, and they're starting to get used to being featured on the news and all these other things. Now's the time to keep things on a positive. Even if you're an OG that wants to help people, just keep it on a positive. We do not need to hear how things were better in the 80s anymore. We've had so many years of hearing about that. I've had enough of that, if I'm honest. I don't know if everyone agrees with me. It's fine if you have a different opinion, But if the only thing that you've got to say in these interviews is just what's negative, then you might as well not get interviewed in the first place.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And also, with the guys with the 80s and the speaking, yes, it's a lineage that should be kept going with the story on because it's a lineage, right? But, the moment is today, and we live of moving forward and what's down the road in the future, and how can we make things grow and get bigger and better.
Yeah,
And
well,
so,
I'll give you an example. Sorry, I'll give you an example. When stunts were coming up and we were filming events and we were starting to build a name for ourselves, a lot of people were against the idea of us uploading footage the next day. Everybody glorified this idea of the VHS era and, oh, it took you 6 months to see your footage. We don't live in that era anymore. Why would you want to wait
all
six
right.
months to see your footage? I understand that there's a nostalgia and I was about to say a novelty, but like there's an attractiveness to being like, this is the rare VHS of your rounds from like Out of Fame or any of these other events, right? But
Uh huh.
we don't live in that time anymore. You have to adjust to the times. So if you've got a problem with these media teams putting out footage right away, you don't have to engage in it. You don't have to look at it if
Right.
you don't want. You can wait the 6 months if you want. You can wait the 1 month if you want and watch it all in a bang. It's completely up to you to do what you want. But we live in a time now where that's what people want and that's what people are going to get.
No, that's fire that you said that because we live in a time where we're like instant access to all this technology where we can do that today. It just takes the time and effort to video it. Boom, post it. And so another thing when you mentioned like right after a couple of days right after your event, it also because there's so many events going on at the time. There's so much jams there's something every weekend if you look at the whole world. And like right now Red Bull BC is happening and there's already videos and posting, and it's like, damn, it actually gave me that feeling. It's like, damn, I should have went to Brazil. I wish I was there. It gives you kind of that FOMO, fear of missing out. And so I'm like, wow, maybe I should go there. So maybe it gives me the trigger. I'm like, hey, next time, because you kind of create the experience within that week of what's happening of that time. Because if you do it down, 6 months, 3 months later, posting, it gets almost stale. It's not what's in, because we're almost in a time zone where instant news or instant storytelling happens so frequent. It's just you might be already late after 3 weeks down the road, right? but it really depends how you use your platform and stuff like that. Because we live in a time just instant posting. So
And that's a
it's
good
cool.
use of content. That's a good use of content if it makes you feel like you're missing out, because then you'll want to be there next year. And
Yeah.
it's the same conversation that happens when dancers say there's too much footage. And they say that like the styles are more homogenized now, where you can go anywhere in the world and see every type of style of breaking. And you look at it and you go, well, look, that's just accessibility. It's got nothing to do with people wanting to be less original or wanting to look like everyone else. It doesn't really have anything to do with that. We're so much more connected nowadays that that's just what's going to happen. And I think it rubs some people up the wrong way, especially people that have spent years tailoring their craft to what they like and really presenting themselves in such a unique way that all of a sudden they're seeing all types of styles from all over the world. And I agree that people should learn properly. I agree that people should learn the styles the way they were intended to be done. But you're not going to stop people from learning it. And if you've got a problem with it, then you are a problem, because it's going to happen. So if you've got this constant resistance to, like, I don't know, you go to Eastern Europe and you're seeing people do what they do in Canada, or you go to Asia and you see people dancing like they were in New York, tough shit. Like that's going to happen. So
Right.
um,
Yeah.
you just have to move with the times, and I respect that people have this preservation in mind, because they care about the culture, They want to nurture it in the right way. They'll create their own content to make sure that that information gets out there. And that's good
Yeah.
because they're doing their part. They're making sure that, the right information is out there and that they're doing their part so that they can put their hands up and go, I've done everything that I can, which is good. It's exactly what you need. But
Yes. Yes.
we're just living in a different time. I know I've said that already, but we're just living in a different time. These things are going to happen, but the level has gone up so much, man. The level has gone up
Oh
so
gosh.
much over the
Yes.
last 10
Yes.
years. You've got 6-year-olds that are moving at a level that adults are, and you're just thinking, how on earth is this happening? And well done to them.
Right. Yeah. Definitely, the lineage paving the wave, and our youth is the the evolves from the different levels, creating new standards, creating new levels to for the height of who knows. Next thing is double air flares coming down the road, like common. Who knows?
The double air flare, man. I am looking forward to seeing that day happen. I know that people are landing on the elbow in their second rotation. I'm really looking
Uh-huh.
forward to seeing when they land on that locked out arm.
Yeah. Wow. It's funny what you mentioned. So down the road, I don't know why this thing pictured in my head, but like, what do you think about AI and VR down the road? This could be like maybe 20, 30 years down the road, where we're wearing Google lenses, Meta, VRs and stuff like that. Where at the time during COVID, a lot of the web online battles were happening, right? And so, in a time maybe down the road, what if we had like VRs where an AI version of you is actually, you're like, let's say in a dance room, but they're in front of you, breaking somehow through the VR. I don't know. I'm just thinking down the road. I was like, oh, it's a picture in my head, and the possibilities can happen down the road. Do you ever think that would possibly happen?
You know what? It's something I've not thought a lot of, but it's probably something I should be thinking a bit more about, especially when it comes to accessibility, as you're saying, with the goggles on, with the headset, sorry, and you're able to watch
Uh-huh.
battles from your living room and feel as though you're right there. That could be a thing. That could definitely be a thing. I wouldn't be surprised if at a battle of the year, for example, they set up a 360 camera and you could tune in through the
Wow. Yeah.
VR and you're right there. Now, of course, I'm sure there would be a paywall for that because it wouldn't be a free thing. But
Hmm.
they do that in the UFC already, I believe, where people can watch ringside but not actually be ringside. Um,
Oh,
I,
really? I
I, I
haven't seen
think
that.
there's I think there's ways where that can happen, and wouldn't be surprised to see it in dance at someday. But that's as far as my opinion goes. I just don't know enough
Yeah.
about its
No.
uses except for like from a content side of things.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. We'll pivot with the times and see how it goes down the road.
That's
Um,
it.
Damn dope, dude. I'm gonna slowly wrap it up right here. Before I do, you got any questions for me or anything?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say that you should definitely keep this up because we
Thank you.
need
Thank you. I appreciate that.
we need opportunities to talk about breaking. We need opportunities to educate people, to give insights. We need the opportunity to talk about, what really matters in breaking. And the more that these
Yeah.
platforms are there and available, then the better that everybody will become. And especially now in a day where it's easy to consume a lot of information, people are going to want to know, how can they start up their own media channel? How can they get an endorsement from Red Bull? How can I win a championship event? All these different questions that people have, and we need a platform like this to help them find those answers. So all I can say is just to keep up the amazing work because we need it, and more
Thank you.
people will become accustomed to listening to a podcast about breaking. More people will become accustomed to seeing long form interviews about breaking as well. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
what you're doing is very needed. It's a very necessary thing, and I wish you all the best with it, brother.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. And something you mentioned just popped in my head when I first started. I was actually, before I started the podcast, I was listening to a lot of different podcasts, but I was looking for breaking podcasts. You can find interviews and stuff. I found you on YouTube, and then also there wasn't nothing really catered to it But there's slowly I'm running into more people doing it, Ronnie District Talks is popping up too, and I think it's just early in the game right now for this. It's just I think down the road there should be more people doing involvement within it, but
Of
uh,
course.
I
And
think there's not that much out there within generalized breaking.
not really, but one thing that I'd like to add is that you do this because you want to. You do this because
Yeah.
you're filling a need that you think there's a need for. And the beautiful thing about our culture is that if there's something going on, you think there's a gap, you think there's a need for something else, you have the opportunity to do it. You have the opportunity to make whatever you want in our culture. Enough of thinking about how this person's doing this person's whack for doing this. I don't know why this podcast, this interview, this and that, right? It's the same with
Right.
events. It's the same with any community things. If you think there's a need for something, you can make it happen. And no one's going to stop you. You might get some negative opinions on it, but if you truly feel that this is something you can do and it's something that is required almost within our community, then you should do it. Because our community, we seem to know a lot about what we don't like, but we don't know a lot about what we like. And I think the way that we find out what's not to our interest is just by seeing what's out there and then a process of elimination from there. So if someone watching this is thinking, I want to set up my own podcast, I want to set up my own jam, I want to do my own community initiative, then it's very easy to look at what's out there and think, well, what's missing? And if you feel like you can fill that gap with what's missing, then that's amazing. And we should always be doing what we want to do.
Nice. Love it, man. Love it. Dude, Chaz B, thank you for getting on the show. I'm going to wrap it over here. Before we do, I want to do what's called a cipher round, right? So I got like 5 questions, whatever at the top of your dome. You ready for it?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's hit it with the cipher. First question, do you have a song you love to get to dance to?
Yeah, James Brown, Since You've Been Gone.
Oh, nice. Yeah, love it. Second one, do you have a favorite breaking move?
A favorite breaking move, maybe 2000s.
2000s? Oh, nice.
I love
Okay.
to see a decent one. I love to see one that's more than 5 spins, proper tight. You see the abs, you just see the arms locked out. Love it.
Yeah, the 2000s is so clean. You see the 90s, but then we hit the 2Ks, 2000s. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. Are you currently listening to any? Are you reading or listening to any audiobooks or reading a book currently?
I'm reading, what's it called? Is it Unshakable by Tony Robbins?
Oh, really? I haven't heard that
Unshakable by
one.
Tony
I love
Robbins.
Tony Robbins. Yes.
So it is an abridged version of his book Money Master the Game. It's just a short and concise version that helps everyday people get into investments, and I'm reading up on it. I think it's called Unshakable.
Dope. I gotta check that out for sure. Fourth question: do you like pineapple on pizza?
I do not, unfortunately. I mean, I don't mind it, but if I had a preference, I wouldn't have it on pizza.
Okay. Tight. Last final question: if you had the opportunity to enter a 2 versus 2 with anybody, do you know who that partner would be?
2 versus 2 with anybody. I'm gonna throw out a name that not a lot of people have heard of in a very long time, and he was one of my first inspirations to actually have me like breaking the way that I do. I remember there's a bit of a story to it, right? I had the answer right off the top of my head, but
Right.
one of the most influential things that I did in breaking was to actually go to Belgium, and I went to an event called Raw Circles. Shout out to Ziri and Admir and all the team there. And a lot of my first love for the international scene was actually going to Raw Circles and being in Belgium. Now, the first dancer that I saw, which made me think I really want to move like him, is Hurricane Ray from Team Schmeta. And he doesn't break anymore, but if Hurricane Ray from Team Schmeta was to ever do a 2v2, I would love to do a 2v2 with him. So
Nice. Heck yeah.
I know people haven't seen him in years, but he's been in some of my favorite battles.
Fire. Yeah. Dude, love it. Chaz B, thank you for getting on the podcast. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Find me at Chaz B, at Chaz B on everything, on Instagram, on YouTube, at Chaz
Social
B.
media platforms. Okay, dope. And I'll link that all in the description below. Dude, Chaz B, thank you for your time getting here all the way from UK, the internet, webcam. Love it. If you guys like this, like, subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Thank you so much, man.
I think what makes us different is because we're all from the scene. We're all from the dance scene. For example, if you were to take a regular production company and you film a dancer, they're not ready for some of the moves.